Oftentimes, it's desirable to update other systems with data from AVD. And in this video, we'll be updating Netbox, which is a popular management tool for network infrastructure, with AVD's structured configuration information. So it's structured configuration in action. I thought it might be helpful to step back and talk about how AVD works, and just a quick slide on the workflow. The AVD itself has a data model that's going to describe your network fabric, and has a series of key value pairs, lists, things like that, that describe the fabric itself. From there, you use the EOS designs role within AVD to create structured device models. Those structured device models are really just the configuration of the devices, but in a YAML format. And why do we do this? This interim step, before we get to the actual CLI, allows us to have a structure to the data itself describing each device, and that can be used for integrating with other systems. And in this case, that's what we're going to do, and use that data to interact with Netbox. Now, that for AVD, that structured data is used to create CLI, documentation, tests, etc. We have a simple workflow here. In our AVD repository, we can update the data center fabric, as you've seen in other videos. But then we can also use that repository, and specifically the structured data, to update Netbox. So we've got a simple Python script that's going to be doing this, and we'll walk through that script together. At this moment, Arista does not officially have a script that's readily supported to update information from the repository into Netbox. So this is something that you would need to do in creating scripts. But the nice thing is, every time that you run through AVD, you could have Netbox data updated as well. All right, and our demo environment is a simple spine leaf architecture, 3 spines, 4 leaves. It's not critical that you understand what this looks like, because really we're going to be focusing on the data itself and updating it. But I thought it might be helpful to understand the devices in question. And we'll be picking on DC1 Leaf 1A specifically. All right, so this is my Netbox instance here. And I have put a few things in here, but not a whole lot. So I've got sites, and under sites, I've got DC1 and DC2. Under devices, I'm calling out the device role. So you can see spine and leaf here that we'll be focused on. And then the device types as well. And under device types, I'm going to be using just the 7050s here. But I did want to show you under devices, you can see that there is nothing configured at the moment. All right, so as we start, one of the things we'll have to do is talk about the APIs for Netbox. If we go to netboxlabs.com and docs, this is where you can find some really good documentation on their API. Under integrations, you'll click on REST API, and there's a rich set of documentation here that you can use to learn more about it and how to interface with it. And then if you go down to the data model itself, this is where you'll find information on how to describe different areas within Netbox. So this is the device view that we'll be working on here in just a moment. All right, it's really easy to access it. So I showed you this before, going to the interface. If you do a /API, hit enter, now you'll get to the next level, or the level here of the highest level, showing different areas where you can go. We are actually going to focus on the DCIM area. So if I copy that and just paste it right up here, hit enter. And now we go to that next level, and then we can find our devices in here. So if I click on or copy devices, paste it right up here, it'll take us into that device view, the same view that we were looking at a moment ago, but from an API perspective. So it's really helpful as you're building a script to interface with Netbox, being able to look at how the data is structured. All right, so let's go look at the repository. First thing is just to showcase the fact that this is a normal, AVD setup. I've got an inventory here Under all, I've got DC, DC1, and then I've got the spines and leafs set up below that. Under DC1, I've got our spines and leafs defined as we've seen in other videos. But I am going to use something called CV tags. So the tags are actually a concept for CloudVision, but I'm going to go in and use this just to highlight specific data about a device. Now, the first CV tags that you see here is under the DC1 group var, since it's in the dc1.yaml file, and it's calling out a key value of site and the value, or a key of site with a value of DC1. Under the spines, I'm using structured config to define further metadata on the CV tags. And I've got a couple here that I want to call out. One is switch type, which will correlate or correspond to device type within Netbox. And then switch role, which will be device role within Netbox. Called out the device itself and then the fact that it's a spine. Under the leaf, I've done the same thing. Switch type, I've got a different switch type for that, and the switch role is leaf. I've already run through the EOS designs role, and it's created that structured data. I just wanted to show you what that looked like. And you can see, I'll just focus on the metadata since we last talked about the tags. Under metadata, we've got our CV tags, and here are those different device tags that are created. So site, DC1, switch type, switch role. Okay, so this is where we can pull data, massage it, and then push it out to Netbox. So let's go look at the script then that we would need in order to put this all together. I've just got a few import of modules here, namely request, JSON, and YAML. And then we've got a base URL. I just find this easier to use once, and then we can dig into the deeper areas as we go do our gets and posts. So this is just the IP address /API that we'd access. The headers would look like this, and this is, I just got this from the Netbox documentation, very easy to find. I did create a token, and you would have to create a token as well. As an administrator, you go into the administrator section and add the token, and take that token and put it in here for accessing Netbox. Next, I have the structured config path. You can see that is under inventory, intended, structured configs, and there's our device itself. So one of the things you might want to do is a get to find out if you've got devices already configured in Netbox. In this case, we're going to be using that base URL from above, plus DCIM devices and filtering on leaf and spine to see if we've got anything. And we'll look at the output of all this in just a moment. Next, I've got a few dictionaries I need to define. So I'm going to have an overall device data that I'll use to post to Netbox. But then within there, I needed to go find a few things from within Netbox to figure out how to correlate that to the device data dictionary. So I wanted to go query device types, device roles, and the site information from within Netbox. So under device types, I would do a get request to DCIM device types, and I want to filter on things that include 7050s, and then create a dictionary and place that information within device types. Now, the reason I'm doing this is Netbox has this concept of naming something, but then it uses an ID, a numeric ID value for that. When I pull information from the structured config file, you can see, for instance, that I'm calling out a specific device type in a text-based format, but when we try to push data up to Netbox, it wants the ID value. So we need to map the name and the ID value together. We'll look at what this dictionary looks like after I run the script. I'm doing the same thing for device roles and device sites. And then we're putting this all together in a dictionary called device data. In the device data, there are a few things that Netbox needs to see in order to create this device and also things that I would just want to be a part of this when it gets created. So one of these is name. That's obviously going to be critical. We're pulling that from the YAML, okay, the YAML of the structured data, and we're finding within that data, that YAML data, the key value for host name, and we're going to put the key host name, and we're going to put the value in this location. So if we go back to our file here, we search on host name, you can see it's a top level var, and then the value for that is DC1 leaf 1A. So that's actually what will fill this area. So name colon DC1 leaf 1A. And that'll be the first part of our dictionary. Next, we have device type. So for device type, I'm actually pulling from that dictionary that I created above, and I'm feeding it the key value here for the value number 2 in our device tags. So if we look back over here and I search on metadata, device tags are 0, 1, and 2. So this particular value or key value pair, I'm looking for the value within the third, in this case 2, 0, 1, 2 list value pair. So and then I'll key on that for the name, correlating that to our site information, or I'm sorry, in this case device type information. So in device type, the dictionary we created, that text value will correlate to a specific ID. And lastly, I'm going to grab serial data, and that's just finding serial number. So let's just take a look at that. Do a search on serial number. You can see that's a top level value as well, and it's got this data here for the serial number. All right, then we're just printing it just so we can see what it looks like, and we'll feed this data to Netbox via a post to DCIM devices. The data is going to be JSON data in the form of device data that you can see here that we just created using headers. We'll do that post and then print it out. All right, so I've got this. This is our simple AVD to netbox.py script. Let's go in and run that. The first thing it did was it called out to Netbox to see what devices are there, and you could see that that was 0. That's what we saw before in our web page. Here are the 3 dictionaries I mentioned above. Okay, device type, device role, and site. So our device types, you can see here we've got the text and then the ID value. And I've just pulled this from within the data that's provided by Netbox. So we're correlating the text value to an ID, text value to an ID. And then when we go and pull all of this together, I'm just pulling out of this in order to get the ID instead of the text value. Same with roles. You've got L2 leaf is number 4, leaf is 1, spine is 2, server's 3. And then for our device sites, DC1 is 1 and DC2 is 2. Okay, so that's the way we're correlating the text to the ID values. Now we're putting the device data together under device data, and that's what this was about. And you can see here we've got name, colon, and then the host name, DC1 leaf 1A. Our device type is 1 because that correlates to the text that we saw up here, DCS 7050SX348YC8. That correlates to 1. The site is DC1, so that correlates to DC1 site. And the role is 1, meaning that it is a leaf. And the serial number. So we feed that, we post that to our Netbox instance in the DCIM devices area, and we had success. So it posted, and then the return value we printed here for add device.json, and that just is saying we added this device with all of the data that you requested, plus here's the default data that we've got for it. So you can see that the name is DC1 Leaf 1A. The role is a leaf, and we've got a device model here already selected. So that is the script. And so let's go back to Netbox and take a look at that. So now if we click on devices, you can see here, there's our DC1 Leaf 1A, and there's information about that device. Let's go check it out in the API as well. And we can see that the device showed up here. Now, the thing you might be thinking about is, do I want to run this script every time after I've messed with AVD? And the answer is you probably don't, as a human, want to do that, but you could feed this into a pipeline. Pipeline might look something like this, where you've got a Git repository, you download your code, you edit that code, then when you push it back up, something happens automatically. And that would be in GitHub, a CI workflow, which would be using a runner and actions to do something for us. In this case, it would be pushing out configs to our fabric, but then also updating Netbox through a script like we just looked at. And we could do that network wide. So I've got another script here that actually will populate more of the data. And this will get our entire fabric pushed up to Netbox. So as this runs, it's actually pushing IP addresses out to Netbox. It will then update the devices for all of our devices, and it'll update some VLAN information as well. So just give that a moment to continue to push out. And I'm going to go back over to Netbox while this is finishing, and we can take a look at some of the IP address information. You can see the devices are coming in now. If we do go look at IP information, we can look at the IP addresses, which have now all been pushed up. We can actually look at prefix ranges, and Netbox does a utilization so we can see how many addresses have been used. If we go back to our devices view, we should have our devices populated. So 1A, 1B. If we click on a device, we can go look at some specifics here, IP address, serial number, things like that. So I've just populated it with some data, but you could use all of the data to fully populate your system. All right, well, hopefully this has been valuable to you, and you'll join us in some future videos. Thank you.